Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews coming at you guys with my review for the first episode of the Twilight Zone reboot on CBS All Access. Alright, so I know I'm actually a little bit late with this one. The episodes did come out, I guess, Monday night at midnight, right? Monday at midnight, I believe. Or Monday morning, right? I guess. But yeah, so I took a look at this last night, yesterday afternoon on Monday, because of course I didn't have time really to do it before then. And so I still don't quite understand exactly why they released it at midnight on Monday and not just 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something like that. But it is what it is. So right now we have 2 episodes out, and that is, basically what they're calling the premiere of the show is the first 2 episodes that are out. And so far I have only seen the first one, and that's what I'm here to review. The second episode will be a different video that I'll be doing a separate review for, as I'll be doing reviews weekly for this show. So please keep coming back if that's interesting to you. Where I'll be doing weekly recap reviews, right? Like this one for each episode. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is one of my most anticipated shows, at least in the first half of the year, maybe even of just 2019. The Twilight Zone reboot. I've seen some episodes of the original. I've not seen the whole thing through. I did watch some of them just to kind of get the feel and the tone that they were going for. And let me tell you, I think there are a lot of similarities with it. Obviously there's some differences. They've changed a few things, but overall I think they did a really good job of kind of capturing that zeitgeist, if you will, of the original series and what kind of that the tone they were setting in that, and just overall the whole kind of format of it as well was really well done within this episode. And I'm guessing going forward they're going to obviously keep the same tone and format going in the future. So anyways guys, let me know what you thought of this episode 1 or the premiere just in general. That is fine too if you've seen both episodes. Let me know what you thought of both episodes, and what do you think of it? How does it line up back to the original? I know tons of people have seen the original all the way through even, so please let me know what you think of that. And also, if you like the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate it. Grown a lot lately on the channel, so it would be awesome if you'd join on. But anyways, guys, let's get into it. So I'll do a kind of a quick recap of the episode. Just really talking in general terms. Minor spoilers here and there. So if you haven't seen the episode, I do suggest you watch it. But it's not going to ruin the series for you, right? This is an anthology series, of course, so there is pretty much no carryover except for the same central theme and Jordan Peele. There's almost no carryover between episodes, right? So, if you get one spoiled, it's not like the whole season's ruined for you. And we are getting 10 episodes, so that's actually pretty cool. I thought there was originally 8, but it sounds like we're getting 10. And so that's pretty awesome. So anyways, I'll give more of my general thoughts on the series towards the end. But first, as I said, let's go over a, little short recap. So this episode's telling the story of a comedian working at a local comedy club who focuses on politics and kind of the blunt information stuff for the most of his comedy. But it doesn't seem to be getting him very far. It doesn't seem to be getting him very many laughs at this comedy club or success, right? And so he makes a joke about the Second Amendment, right? And that stuff, and that was a recurring one, right? Throughout the episode, he would start every one of his routines off with that. So it's an interesting little concept that they're working with, right? This is kind of what he wanted to do. This is what he enjoyed doing, is focusing on this stuff and not as much on himself and his personal life and relatable things. And so, of course, throughout the course of the episode, we see that whole kind of shift, right? And so that's basically the main premise of what's going on with this in, a comedian at a local comedy club trying to be successful, and he kind of learns in this episode how, or, what he kind of has to give up in order to get that success, right? So then after talking to a well-known comedian played by Tracy Morgan. He was awesome in this episode. He was great. And he just has 2 little small appearances in it, but he is really great. So he decides to start compromising kind of his own morals, right? And become more personal in his routines in order to get more laughs out of the crowd, which like very very quickly, right? Almost immediately leads to these bad things, right? Leads to these repercussions for him doing so, which seems like such a little thing. Like he just changed on what he said in his routine, but it actually has some pretty big impacts. So first he loses his dog, right? First he goes home, loses his dog, and everyone, his girlfriend included, she's like, well, we don't have a dog, right? So then we get this kind of idea like, okay, we're in a different universe now where that dog just doesn't exist anymore, right? So then we see that his nephew as well goes and he loses the nephew too. Again, the girlfriend, no idea that the nephew has even existed ever. And again, right, we're entering this new universe. And so it's very interesting, and this whole thing is kind of a teaching device for that kind of moral complexity, right, of his situation, or moral flexibility, I guess, in his case, with him kind of exchanging his morals and his own personal practices or personal preferences in order to gain success. So then we get the awesome thing here with, little intro, Jordan Peele narrating, "You have now entered the Twilight Zone." So really awesome stuff. I will get my thoughts on Jordan Peele a little bit later in the episode. I did like what he did, but he was barely in this, so that would be my only critique, but I'm going to get to that in more detail a little bit later. But really awesome, right? You've now entered the Twilight Zone. That's just going to become iconic here throughout these 10 episodes, and of course, from the original series as well. So he begins figuring out that this universe, beginning out the universe, and that if he talks about something, someone or something on stage, it will suddenly cease to exist in this kind of changed universe, but only for him, right? Like everything is kind of revolving around him in this universe. And so if he says something about someone or something, all of a sudden they're gone, right? And then all of their actions in their whole lives are completely, almost deleted, right? Everything that goes back, to even the time they were born, right? Everything kind of changes. And of course, it's not just that one person, but as we see a little bit later, it's his girlfriend that's affected by this person being, out of this universe. So really some big impacts, right? So then he starts using this to his advantage, right? He takes advantage of this whole universe thing and he figures it out. He starts talking about the other comedian at the club who killed a parent and a baby while driving drunk, ran to the bus stop. So that was a recurring thing as well. And again, I think most of us would agree, okay, that was probably a good, move. And that way the parent and the baby are still alive, right? Because everything gets reversed. So that was interesting too. Then he starts looking up people from his high school that he didn't like, right? Starts talking about them. And when he mentions them by name, that is when they completely disappear and everything, along with them, with their whole life, also disappears. So just the offset here, it seems to be working, right? He's getting more and more famous because of it. People are laughing. People love him, mentioning names and just roasting these people pretty much, right? And then they cease to exist. So he's really making fun of people that don't actually exist, and that way people find it so funny. And of course, that's all, kind of tailored into this universe. But yeah, he's getting real famous because of it, and everything looks to be going well, right? So then we kind of get the turning point, is that he tries using it on his girlfriend's kind of creepy mentor that he doesn't like, which he probably wasn't an actual threat to him at all, but he was just kind of in his routine talking about it, and then he says his name purposely to get rid of him, because he thinks that'll improve their lives, whatever, it's just a little thing. But it has huge impacts for his life, right? For his whole, for his life and his girlfriend's life, of course, right? So he disappears, the mentor, right? But at a cost, right? Because the girlfriend no longer has a career as a lawyer now, and the relationship has changed for the worst, right? Showing that once he started using it for his selfish kind of wants, or, his self, needs, if you will, it started to have massive impact in his life, right? On his life, rather than him, just disappearing bad people from his past. And so we see this kind of change, right? He's doing good. He's getting rid of all these, bad people or that did terrible things. But then once he uses it for himself, we see that the impacts are actually very negative on him in particular, right? And especially with his girlfriend, right? So this results in his girlfriend breaking up with him, right? And their relationship never got better in this alternate universe, and that causes ultimately it to end, right? So things start going downhill, right? He begins to regret and feel guilty for what he's done now with kind of disappearing this mentor and bringing on all this kind of real negative ramifications for his actions of disappearing him, right? So then, as the final competition happens between him and the other comedian, Dee Dee, she was great, by the way, the actress who played her in this one. So they're basically competing for a job at the comedy at a comedy show, I guess. And so the scout is there from the local at the local comedy club. And so they're kind of competing here, and he ends up using this kind of ability, he calls it a superpower, but he uses this ability then to disappear her as well, meaning that he automatically wins the competition, and then he's going to get that job and ultimately get that success that he's been going for this whole time, right? So he ends up using her name and disappearing her, making himself the only option for the job, just cold, right? And we see the relationship between them building the whole episode before this, and, that just makes us feel even more for her and the type of circumstance that he is in here. And we get the impression it's like all of this just to get to the top, right? He did all of this, abandon his girlfriend, now kind of his friend, if you will, just to get to the top, just to get success, right? So, it's pretty crazy. And then, as he's just killing it, the crowd is just loving it, especially as he's, starting to make fun of Dee Dee, right? And she doesn't even exist now, right? He disappears her. So then his girlfriend comes in, though. She comes back and accuses him of using all these people just for laughs. And, she brings his notebook in there, so kind of exposing him right here with what he's all done, right? And, probably true, right? That's exactly what he's been doing all this time. And so then she dares him to use her as a subject. So this was the big climax of the episode, in that, is he going to go all the way with this? Is he going to go all the way and even disappear his girlfriend in order to get to that level of success? And it turns out he decides not to, right? So he decides then to talk about himself at the very end here instead of the girlfriend, and he says there's just one more thing for me to give, and that is and that's myself. And then he says his own name, and we see the mic kind of drop to the ground, and he is disappeared. So, and then also right after, right, we see now everyone is back, right? Everyone is back, including Dee Dee, the nephew, the girlfriend, his dog, and, everyone that he disappeared is now back in the world, and he is gone. And presumably forever, right? Because he was the only one that could control it, and now he is gone. So a really awesome kind of way to wrap things up here, in that he made that final decision to sacrifice himself instead of ultimately sacrificing his girlfriend, here to get to that level of success that he was wishing for. So then we ended off with Dee Dee being approached by the famous comedian Tracy Morgan again, and he basically says the same thing to her as he once said to Samir at the very beginning of the episode, which pushed him to go in this whole direction and this whole universe thing. So it's all a big circle, right? It all came full circle here, and presumably then Dee Dee is going to be the next one to use this same thing to get to the top, to get to that success, and she's going to do the same thing and be put into the same universe type of thing. The Twilight Zone, right? So really kind of nice way to loop things all around. And again, Tracy Morgan was great in this too. So then we switch to the hallway shot there, and Jordan Peele comes out in narrating basically the lesson learned of this episode, and he says, sometimes getting everything you want means losing everything you love. And then, he says, Samir, when he found himself on the verge of finally becoming somebody, he chose instead to once again be a nobody. So then we see, so then he says, Samir's Encore is a show you can only buy a ticket to in the Twilight Zone. And then we see Samir's face on the big wallpaper there at the comedy club as being one of those guys sitting in the chairs watching on. So really great ending here. Again, Jordan Peele coming out and doing that line is a ticket to in the Twilight Zone. It was a really awesome ending there. And, even gave you chills. I think if you've seen the original, you've seen Rod Sterling, right? And you've seen what he was able to do, and seeing Jordan Peele say that as well with the ending. I think that may have brought back some good nostalgia for a lot of people. So definitely a really good ending there for the episode. Alright, so now just a few general thoughts of after this episode of the series and where I think we might be going in the future. So first, the preview, by the way. So they showed a little bit of a preview. I think most of it is actually just from the trailer for the season that was already released, but we do have some new footage in there that we did not see in the trailer. I think that's just because they were able to shoot more stuff now, and so they were able to put more into this preview. But it looks great. Like, it looks really great, this preview. The next episodes to come looks really great. And it looks a lot more kind of bigger scale than this episode. I think this episode is going to be one of the most, kind of insignificant, if you will, or one of the more smaller scaled episodes of the entire season. Just because I think they have so many bigger kind of themes and events to tackle where they could do this type of, tone and format and this type of thing that they're doing with the show. Even starting with episode 2, right? It's, what is it? It's, at, some at 20,000 feet, right? I forget, Terror at 20,000 feet or something like that. And the original episode was named 30,000 feet. But anyways, so again, that's just already a bigger thing, right? They're in an airplane, Adam Scott's character's there. Again, I have not seen that one yet, but obviously it looks like a bigger scale than just a comedian at a comedy club. So, obviously, I think as the episodes, gradually go on here, I think we're even going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's going to be more action, it looks like, and there's going to be more kind of suspense and all that stuff. So it looks really good. I think it's just going to be better than this episode going forward. I think that's the only way they have to go, right? Is up and up and up with this preview. So pleasantly surprised at how good this looks. I really am. And, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if episode 1 ends up being one of the worst episodes of the season. Honestly, just by looking at this preview and reading some of the descriptions, looking at some of the cast for these next episodes, I think we're in for a treat. I think it looks really great. So there you go. One thing I do want to state here, though, is I think Jordan Peele's name is kind of overstated with this project. And I fell victim to this too. I was always saying, oh, it's Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. Jordan Peele is rebooting Twilight Zone, right? That's kind of where the discussion has been so far. But to me, I look at this episode, he has, 2-3 minutes of screen time total in the whole episode. That may even be stretching it. It might only be about, minute and a half of screen time. So, and again, he's the narrator. He's obviously not a character in these episodes, especially not in this episode. But as the narrator, presence, I thought that he would be a little bit more significant in the way of these episodes, in the format they're working with. So that first, right? And then you also take into account he's not a director for any episode right now. I mean, he could be the director for the finale or something, but that information isn't out yet. So he's not a director for any of the episodes right now. He's not a writer for any of the episodes right now. He's not the showrunner of the show. All he is an executive producer and the host, who presumably is getting two minutes of screen time an episode. So to me, obviously Jordan Peele is a huge name right now, coming off Weird City, Us, Get Out, right? He's had some real good successes in both TV and movies lately. But I think his name is being a little overstated with this project. I kind of put this similar to, Mortal Engines, right? Where they had Peter Jackson's name all over that thing. And he was only a producer. He didn't have anything to do with the directing or the script or anything. But to use that kind of name that's big at the time to sell that product or that project, in this case, I think that's exactly what happened here, which I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to see more of Jordan Peele. And it just seems like we're not going to actually see that much of him. But anyways, that would be my comment on that. Again, he may direct some of the later episodes. I don't know. But as of now, he's not a director. He's not a writer for any episode. He's not the showrunner. And all he is just one of the executive producers. I believe there's six or seven executive producers. And then he's the host. So anyways, it is what it is there. So obviously a unique style to the show that I believe is like nothing else on the air right now, and that's why I think this is such a great time and such a great idea to reboot this now, right? Because honestly, I don't really feel. I mean, there's other anthologies out there, anthology episodes. Even Into the Dark has been a recent one on Hulu, but there isn't one quite like this, I don't think, where you have a host throughout 10 episodes and you have this same kind of tone with different messages in each episode. I don't think there's anything like this on the air right now in any, streaming service, network, cable, whatever. And so to me, I think this is such a great idea. I'm so glad that CBS All Access got behind this one. Honestly, after seeing this episode, I'm surprised that Netflix or one of these bigger ones didn't get on with this, or Amazon, because this actually does look like a very good and unique project that I thought more streaming services would be interested in. But ends up, it's on CBS All Access. It is what it is, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. And I really am sold after this first episode. So, let's get to this. My rating for the episode, then, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I've seen some of the ratings online, and people seem to like episode 2 better, so I'll evaluate that once I see the episode. But, of course, a slow-paced episode. Not for everybody, probably. If you were tuning in to just see, kind of the horror, eerie aspect of this with some action there. This is not the episode for that, obviously. Very slow-paced. A very kind of small concept episode, right? Really kind of repetitive, actually. It ends up, and, just kind of the same concepts. But again, pushing that same central theme, which I felt like they established very well. Great performances in this episode all around. Tracy Morgan was great, making his couple appearances. Jordan Peele was awesome as the host. He just has that persona about him. Like I said, even though he's in 2 minutes, I loved it when he was talking. Everything that he was saying about the Twilight Zone, and the nostalgia really does hit you there. If you've and I've only seen a few episodes of the original, so if you watched it all the way through, that for sure will get you on that. And then, of course, Kumail Nanjiani, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. He was great leading this episode as well. I can't remember off the top of my head some of the other cast members in this one, but honestly, they all did a great job. I don't think one actor was bad in this episode. So yeah, that was really great, and that's going to be something that's important going forward too. You got a lot of big actors attached to these, but how are the supporting cast going to be? Right, that's a question for this show, and hopefully they'll be good. Right, hopefully they'll be good. It sounds like they got at least 1 or 2 big names in each episode. So I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, we got John Cho, Rhea Seehorn, Adam Scott even for episode 2. Stephen Yeun has been, attached to it. Seth Rogen is even going to be in this. Chris O'Dowd, it's just some big names going forward, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them, give their all, hopefully, in all these episodes. So, again, really like the tone they set, right? Even though this is kind of a small concept, the tone overarching the whole episode was really great. Kind of an eerie, unsettling kind of tone and theme that they're building. Again, really similar to the original show in that aspect, I think. And so that was probably one of my biggest positives of the episode, and just where it looks like this series is going to go. Lastly, I will say that the episode was a little bit predictable, somewhat cliche at times. This is a story that isn't necessarily a whole new concept, but the tone and the kind of format that they put it into is. So, you can kind of read into that either way with the kind of cliches and the predictable, elements of this episode. You kind of knew towards the end that he would probably say himself, right, in that whole arc, kind of resolving in that way. But anyways, it is what it is. I think it was still entertaining, nonetheless. And yeah, like I said, it's kind of eerie and unsettling, right? So it built a little bit of that suspense going into that final kind of moment or sequences, right at the end. And so maybe that also added to it and kind of reduced a little bit of the predictableness of the final situation. So anyways, those are my thoughts there on the rating. Favorite character for this one, obviously I gotta go with Samir Wasan, was the character's name, played by Kumail Nanjiani. He was great in this episode. I feel like this episode was so perfect for him. I just feel like this character was written for him. He was awesome. Well, probably was, right? It probably was once they knew that he was signing on. But just a really awesome performance by him in this one. A funny performance, right? But then also serious, too, when we got into some of those, kind of tense moments in the episode. And I thought he did really well with that again. So, again, hopefully all of these big names give a performance like Kumail Nanjiani does in this episode. Because if they do, I mean, again, like I said, we're in for a treat with this show. I think it's going to be a really, really great season of television here with the Twilight Zone reboot. So, anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review of Episode 1 of the Twilight Zone. Again, I have not seen Episode 2 yet, so that'll be next. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be back with Episode 2 review. And then after that, Thursday nights will be the weekly release for this one. So I'll be doing those, weekly and putting out reviews for those. So really looking forward to this, season after this episode. Hope you guys are too. Anyways, love to hear your thoughts again on this one. So again, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for the support on the channel. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you stay tuned for the weekly reviews of this season. All right, guys, that's it for me. We'll see you in my next review. Thank you.